Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I put anything out, so life's gotten away a little bit, work, etc. Okay, so here's the King's 200 amp hour battery. It arrived yesterday. I ordered it like two and a half weeks ago. We got 24-month warranty. Let's see how that goes. All right, let's get this thing out of here. Okay, tape to the inside. What have we got? Some screws, an information sheet, whatever. All right. So I'm going to charge this up, discharge it, pull it apart, and see what it's like. Okay, so I've connected up the King's battery to the Wise Energy test rig, so it's now charging up. I'm putting about 100 amps into this battery, which is about 0.5 C, charging it to its recommended charge voltage of 14.6 volts. So we'll come back when that's fully charged, then I'll do a discharge test on it. After the discharge test, I might do another discharge test. I probably won't be able to get to 1 C, but I'll put it up quite high. Then I'll open the case up, we'll have a bit of a look inside this battery, and we'll see what it's like. Still charging up the King's battery, but I just thought I'd check some temperatures with the probe I've got. You can see here we're up to about a bit over 40 degrees on the positive terminal, and about 30 degrees, 31 degrees on the negative terminal. Nothing really of any great concern on this battery. Yeah, look, completely normal. That 44 degrees that I'm spotting there, that doesn't concern me at this point in time. Righto, so we're back with the King's battery. It's now been fully charged to 14.6 volts. Been sitting there now for quite some time, happily just sitting on 14.6. So reset both the shunts. Remember, I've got a shunt here directly at the battery, and I have another shunt here a little bit further over. So I've reset both shunts. Everything's looking good. I'm going to put a load on it now. And we'll do a discharge test on it. Okay, that load's coming up. Let's just have a look. Discharging. Okay, so we've got 1500 watts on it. So 150 amps. So that's a little bit more than I thought I was going to put on it, but you know what? Let's run with that. I'll come back in a couple of hours' time and we'll see how it's going. Okay, so we're past the 50% barrier now, so down to 42% state of charge, settled in at 131 amps discharge. Amp hours consumed 108.5, and about half an hour to go. The interesting thing that I've just discovered is we're pushing 65 degrees, 67 degrees at the positive terminal. And then when we come back at the cable, back to 30 degrees. So that's really heated up there now. I wouldn't even like to touch that at 68 degrees. 37, 35. That's all fine. See where we can work out where the BMS is, because it should be getting fairly hot under there now. No, it's all good. Cold on the side. Cold on that side. Cold there. So unless I don't believe the BMS is right there, but we're hitting 70 degrees on that terminal. I wouldn't even like to touch that. Everything else is good. I might just see if I can get around this side. Okay, you probably can't see that on camera, but it's cold around there as well. Alright, down to 39% now, so we'll come back just before the end of the discharge and see what we get out of this battery. Okay, down to 3% now on the battery at 12.27 volts at 180 amp hours. So it's getting there, but you know, at 2% with 180 amp hours, is it going to make 200 amp hours? Look, it probably will, and I say that because they do the discharge test down to 10 volts. Now, in the past, I've been happy to do that, and I've done it on other batteries, so we'll keep going. But I kind of like 3 volts as the cutoff per cell, so that would bring it to 12 volts. I think the more times you take it down to that 10 volt level, the less cycles you're going to get. So we'll stay with it. I'll just keep going, but interesting. So you can see the temperature there, 75 degrees. I mean, that's not ideal. And I did check those terminals. I double checked them. I've done them with a tension wrench. You know, there shouldn't be a problem. The rest of the battery's not hot anywhere. It'll be interesting to see the size of the cable underneath that positive battery, so we'll know that when I crack the battery open. But we're going to stay with this. 183, 12.22 volts, 184 amp hours. 185, 12.19 volts, 'That's that's warm to the touch. I'm not going to touch the terminal at 70 degrees. The rest of the battery's, you know, reasonably cold. As I said earlier, it's slightly smaller than the Atom power battery in terms of footprint. But if I compare it to, say, a Victron, you can see the size difference there. So, you know, sure, Victron's slightly higher. Again, that's a 200 amp hour battery. But look at this over here, you know, you've got all this room. In terms of width, yep, so again, the footprint of these Victrons is fantastic. And remember, these are a 2C rated battery, so you can actually pull 400 amps out of this battery. External BMS, not internal BMS on these. So we'll keep going. 189 amperes at 12.03. So this is about where I reckon they should cut off, 12 volts. But in fairness to this battery, I've pulled a lot of batteries down to 10 volts, or I've let the BMS cut out. Previously the Multiplus has cut out before the BMS. We'll just see what happens today. $190.6. Voltage is starting to come down now. 11.87. $699 when they go on special, and they seem to come on special every other day, so don't get caught out and pay, you know, 900 to 1,000 for this battery when you can get it for $6.99, and I think the freight was like 20 bucks, you know. 192 amp hours, 11.7. Look, it may seem boring to some, but I like to do this in one take. So you can see there's no fiddle loading, you know, of my video. You know, I like to do the no bullshit video, as I say. You know, we're pulling 145 amps out of this battery. Obviously the amps go up as the voltage comes down, but you know, real world, are you going to pull that sort of amperage out of this battery continuous? No, you probably won't. But it is a 1C rated battery, so continuous discharge of 200 amps. So, and it's a 200 amp hour battery, so you know, we're not doing anything wrong. We're actually, you know, way under spec of what it's supposed to be able to do. So it should pull 200 amp hours. 195 now. $196, call it. So if you look at the voltage now, so we're into the high 10s, so it's coming down very quickly now. So let's keep going. 10.7. 10.6, 10.5. So remember, this is rated at 200 amp hours down to 10 volts. Is it going to get there? $198. There we go. So it's under 10 volts now. Again, that's at the, and it's just cut out. Low battery, and we got 198.6 amp hours out of this rated 200 amp hour. Am I going to complain at 1.4 amp hours? I don't think so. And you know what? I could put my little light globe on there and probably pull the extra 2 amp hours out of it. So, you know, it's low battery on the Multi Plus, so I'd say the Multi Plus trip before the BMS. I'm going to call that a pass on the discharge test. I don't really have a problem, you know, I'm not going to debate, you know, 1.4 amp hours. So I'm going to charge it back up, and then I'll do another discharge test on it. I might, look, I'll probably do 3 or 4 charge cycles on this battery off camera, and then I'll, on the last one, after I've done the full discharge, I'll open it up while it's still warm, and hopefully we don't see any marshmallow in it. Stay with me. I'll charge it up and then we'll do another discharge. Okay, so it's the next morning. I've let the King's 200 amp hour charge up overnight, and we'll do another discharge test on it today. Just the fan heater again is low. I'll turn that on now, and you'll see the amps come up. Just keep watching that for a second. 125 amps. Obviously the amps is going to rise as the voltage drops. There we go. 137 amps, 145 amps. Okay, so we'll come back in 1 to 2 hours. We'll see how that's going, and after that I'll probably pull the battery apart and have a look at the cells. Down to 46% now, and the voltage has come down a fair bit, 12.32 volts. And we've consumed just over 100 amp hours. So it's saying got about 40 minutes to go. Just checking the temperatures today. Yeah, still hot, 71 degrees. Down to 38. Yeah, the shunt's a little bit warm, 38, 40. No, that's all right. Everything else looks good. I did notice yesterday afternoon when I put my hand across the back here. Yeah, so the back side of the battery is definitely hotter than the front side. But no, it's all looking good. Yeah, that's the only one I'm not happy about. I think that's not ideal. Okay, so we'll come back right at the end of the discharge test and we'll see what we get out of this battery today. Okay, so we've come down now to 11.13 volts at 192 amp hours consumed. What I've done is I've put my little H7 globe or whatever it is on the side here straight onto the shunt and the positive terminal, because I'm assuming what's going to happen is the inverter is going to cut out at 9.3 volts. The BMS will continue to operate, and then we'll drain the last little bit out of this battery and try and get 200 out of it. So 10.82, it will start dropping off very quickly now. (194 amp hours). Now yesterday, remember, we got 198.6, and I class that as a pass. (10.38), 10.33. See, it's dropping really quick now. (195.6). (9.95). Actually, it doesn't even look like we're going to get the same capacity out of what we got out of it yesterday. 9.2, there we go. So the inverter has now cut out. The BMS is still going. The light proves that. So unfortunately all I've got now is 1 amp discharge on it. Let's turn the load off. Turn the inverter off. Where's that switch? There it is. Okay. So I'll just let that discharge and come back when the BMS cuts out. Still going with this light globe. It's going to be here forever. So I'm going to call it at that. 197.1 amp hours, and look, you know, 197 to 200, to me it's good enough, but personally I would like it at around 12 volts to produce, you know, sort of that 185, 190 amp hours, rather than trying to take this battery down so low. But we'll call it at that, and I'll now crack the battery open and we'll have a look inside. We'll see if we can get in underneath this case without damaging it. Okay, so that's foam in the top by the looks of it. Yeah, looks like the battery's a fair way down. Hey! Okay, what do we got? All right. Okay, so with these nylon blocks stuck to the top of the battery, it's definitely prismatic cells. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now this is the terminal that gave issue. See, there you go. See, that's loose. That terminal is loose, and the negative is not. So there's the problem. Look at that. You can see that clear in the video that that's just moving. So there's the BMS down the side. Interesting looking battery. Okay, well, let's get it out of the case and have a look at it. Rightio, finally got the King's 200 amp hour out of its casing. Geez, it was glued in there. There's glue everywhere on this thing. It was glued top and bottom, and then they've got these closed cell EVA blocks to hold it firm and moving topwards and bottom with these nylon ones. This battery could be a lot smaller footprint, but I guess the reason they do it, it's a generic box, saves them buying. I would imagine the 300 amp hour battery is the same size casing as the 200 amp hour battery. So it's a 3P 4S prismatic configuration. We've got 4 negative terminals here coming to the BMS, and then 3 larger negative to the main negative terminal. We've got, this is where the problem was, we've got 2 positives in there, 2 positives in there, and it comes down to our VIP BMS 200-200. So I'm assuming that's 200 amps charge, 200 amps discharge. Now, it put out just under the 200 amps. It was, what was it, 197 on one discharge and then 198.6 or something on the other. Unfortunately for me, this battery is a fail simply because of that positive terminal and the way it heated up. Quality just isn't there. It was moving in the back of the casing, and I showed you guys that clearly a minute ago. So look, if you want to satisfy your own curiosity, get yourself an infrared heat gun like this and check your terminals. You know, that, look at that, normal working 40 degrees, 44 degrees. It shouldn't be any more than, you know, 40 to 50 degrees. When it was hitting over 70 degrees, there's obviously a problem. And it showed in the video that there's a loose terminal. Everything else looks pretty good. So unfortunately, guys, the King's 200 amp hour lithium ferrophosphate battery for me is a failure this time around. And I'd suggest maybe people just checking the temperature of their terminals to make sure they don't have the same issue. Thanks, guys. Hope you liked this one. Stay tuned. More to come. I've given the King's battery a bit of charge because I want to test with the infrared. what the temperature is now of that terminal. So I've got the same load on it I had previously. So it's at about 130 amps discharge. I've been running that now for about 15 minutes. And let's have a look at what sort of temperature we should be getting at the terminal, because it was loose on the inside of the case, not the outside of the case. So that terminal was loose at manufacture. There you go. 46 degrees is what we just saw, which I would consider that normal, considering it's 33 degrees ambient today. Everything else looks pretty good. BMS is heating up there, 50 degrees, but look, that's still okay. I'm still quite happy with that. Negative terminal, nice and cool. Positive terminal, as I said, I've been running for 15-20 minutes at 130 amps, and this is not heating up now. So there you go, guys. Definitely was spinning on the inside of the case.